Hi, and welcome to my video on find from the equation of ellipse center 0, 0, vertices, foci, length of the major and minor axes, and the eccentricity. Again, just to remind you that there's a previous unit in Algebra 2 that I did the ellipse, foci of the ellipses and the hyperbola, and I did the equation of a circle. But here I wanted to do with the foci in there. Again, the previous unit on Algebra 2 is ellipses, circles, and hyperbolas, but there's no foci in it. So let's recall from that Algebra 2 unit on conics. We have x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals 1. And we have a squared is greater than b squared. And as a result, we know that because this is x squared, y squared with no brackets, the center is 0, 0. Because a squared is larger than b squared, that means the major axis is going to be the horizontal, which is the x. That means the minor axis is going to be the y, the vertical. And the length of the major axis is whatever this number is, you get the square root and you double it, so it's 2a. And the length of the minor axis is 2b, so you get the square root of this number and you double it. And the length is always positive. The vertices lie on the major axis, so the vertices are plus or minus a0. And the co-vertices lie on the minor axis, which is 0, comma, plus or minus b. Actually, because the center is 0, 0, you can treat it as if you let y equals 0, then you get the x-intercepts. If you let x equals 0, you get the y-intercepts. And that only happens when the center is 0, 0. And the foci lie on the major axis. And the major axis is the horizontal. So therefore the foci is plus or minus c, comma 0. And the eccentricity is E. Eccentricity is the ratio of the distance the foci is from the center over C over A, and A is the distance that the vertices are from the center. And we also know, through the previous video, that PF1 plus PF2 is 2A. PF1 plus PF2 is the length of the major axis, 2A. And the c squared equals a squared minus b squared. C, it's related to the Pythagorean, but this c in the conics is the focal distance, and this a is the length of the vertice distance, and this b is the distance of the co-vertices. So let's do an example. We have an equation x squared over 25 plus y squared over 16 equals 1. So the major axis, the bigger number here, so this is the a squared and this is the b squared. So that means that a squared is equal to 25. So the square root of 25 is plus or minus the square root of, so the square root of a squared plus or minus the square root of 25. So a is plus or minus 5. And b squared equals 16. Square root of b squared is plus or minus the square root of 16. So b is plus or minus 4. Now, the major axis, the 25 is larger than the 16. So the major axis is horizontal and vertical. The major axis is the horizontal. And I had this here because I was asking you, the major axis is which one? Because the horizontal axis is the major, then the length of the major is twice a. So that's twice 5. So the length of the major is 10. So the minor axis is the vertical. So that's twice the length of 2b, and b is 4. Again, You can't say -4 because you're talking about distance, so it has to be positive. And the center, because there's x squared and just a y squared, the center is not understood. You should know center is 0, 0. PF1 plus PF2 is the length of the major axis. The major axis is 10, so we say it's 2a, so it's 2 times 5, which is 10. And now we have to get the vertices. So the vertices are on the x-axis, so the vertices are plus or minus 5, so the vertices are 5, 0, and -5, 0. Plus or minus a is the vertices. The co-vertices, if the vertices are on the x-axis, the co-vertices are on the y-axis. So the co-vertices are plus minus 4. So it's 0, 4, 0, -4. Now, the foci are on the major axis, so the foci are on the x-axis, but the foci are determined by c squared is a squared minus b squared. And so that means that c squared, a squared is right here 25, b squared is right here 16, so b squared is, that's a 9, so the square root of b squared is plus or minus the square root of 9, so c is plus or minus 3. So because the vertices and the foci are on the same axis, which is the horizontal axis, that means it must be 3, 0 or -3, 0, because it's on the horizontal axis. The horizontal axis has x's 3 and -3. The eccentricity is the c over the a, so the c is plus or minus 3, but we'll just keep it positive as a ratio, and the a is plus or minus 5, but we'll keep it 5. So the eccentricity is 3 over 5, or we could say it's decimal 6 if you want a decimal. And we want a graph. Well, we got a center of 0, 0, which is right there. That's the center of 0, 0. We have the vertices of 5, 0, -5, 5, 0, and -5, 0, right here. So that's vertex 1. You could say that's vertex 2. And the co-vertices are on that's the horizontal, got to be on the vertical. So 0, 4 is 1, 2, 3, 4. One co-vertex is there, and the other one is here. And the foci lie on the major axis, so the vertices are on the major, so the foci are on the major. So the foci are at -3, 1, 2, 3. So that's foci 1. So that point is -3, 0. This is foci 2. So this is 3, 0. And we draw the ellipse. So the ellipse goes through. There it goes. Just drawing a rough sketch. There's the ellipse. Notice the foci is 0.6. So the smaller the foci, the closer it gets to 0. If the foci is 1, which is the foci, the eccentricity is 1. When these two are equal, that means we have a line. But when you get closer to 0, you get closer to a circle. Okay, let's try another one. Again, recall from the algebra chapter, the algebra unit 2, we have a chapter on conics. So this is why I say recall, because I discussed all this, but I didn't have foci in it. So I'm doing it all again with foci, because now foci can make it a little bit confusing. So recall x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals 1. B squared is greater than or equal to 0, and that means that we have this equation, we have the center is 0, 0. So if the center is 0, 0, we just have an x squared and y squared with no brackets. Now, because the b squared is greater than the a squared, that means the major axis is the vertical. So if this number, whatever number here is larger, then that's the major axis. And the major axis has the foci on it. And the minor axis has the endpoints of the co-vertices. So the major axis is vertical because the b squared is bigger. So that means the minor axis is horizontal. And because the major axis is vertical, that means its length is twice b. The square root of this number doubled. And the minor axis is 2a. So it's the square root of this number here, but you double it. That means the vertices are on the vertical. That means we have a 0 plus or minus b. The co-vertices are on the horizontal, so it's plus or minus a, 0. So notice they're switched around because the major axis has the vertices and the foci, and the minor axis has the co-vertices. So if the vertices are on the vertical, that means the foci are on the vertical. So it's 0 plus or minus c. And the eccentricity is the c over the b in this case. Because the b is the larger number, if it's a horizontal and going oval going sideways, like when I mean oval going sideways is like this, is longer this way, that means it's c over a. But because this is vertical, this one is going to go narrow like this. So it's c over b. So this c over a if it's horizontal major axis, c over b if it's a vertical major axis. So pf1 plus pf2 equals 2b because it's the length of the major axis, 2b. And c squared equals b squared minus a squared. Again, it has to be the larger of these two numbers first. So because its major axis is vertical, so c squared is b squared minus a squared. So if you did the difference in the squares, I got a negative, you know you should have it reversed because it always got to be a positive number. Now let's try an example. X squared over 225 plus y squared over 289 equals 1. So again, the a squared is with the x, the b squared is with the y. So we have a squared equals 225. So a is plus or minus the square root of 225, which is 15. B squared is equal to 289. So b is plus or minus the square root of 289, which is 17. So again, 289 is larger, so that means the y-axis or the vertical axis is the major. So the major is the vertical axis. That means the minor axis is the horizontal. The length of the major axis is this number where the b is. So the major axis this time is 2 times b, and b is 17. So that's 34 in length. The minor axis, if the major is the vertical, the minor must be horizontal. So the horizontal has the a. So it's 2 times a, which is 2 times 15, and that gives us 30. And the center, again, because there's x squared, y squared, with no brackets, so it's 0, 0. And again, if you let y equals 0 here, this becomes 0. So x squared equals 225. So x is plus or minus 15, which is the x-intercepts. Letting x equal 0, you solve for y, and you get the y-intercepts. But this is only happening when the center is 0, 0. And again, pf1 plus pf2, because it's the major axis, so it's going to be twice b. So that's twice 17, so that's a 34. Now, the vertices. The vertices are on the major. So the major axis is vertical, so it's got to be with the y. So the vertices are with 70 is the larger number, so 0, 17, 0, negative 17. Co-vertices are on the other axes, so the co-vertices is the x this time, and that's plus or minus 15, so this is 15, 0, negative 15, 0. So the major axis is vertical, the vertices lie on the major axis, so it goes in place of y. The minor axis is the horizontal, so the co-vertices lie on the horizontal axis, so that they go 15, negative 15 with the x. And the foci, we have c squared is b squared minus a squared. The larger number is 289, so it has to be b squared minus a squared. So c squared is 289. There's b squared. A squared is 225. So c squared is 64. So the square root of c squared is c. The square root of 64 is plus or minus 8. We have to do the plus and minus in this case because the distance is positive and negative. And the foci are on the vertical. So that means the foci lie on the y. So it's 0, 8, and 0, negative 8. Okay, and the eccentricity is the c, again the vertical, so it's a c over the b, not a. The eccentricity is always on whatever is the larger number, the square root of the larger number. So that's c is 8 and b is 17. So it's 8, and they're not negative, they're always positive. Eccentricity is 8 over 17. Now let's graph. What we have is the center 0, 0 right there. We have the vertices of 0, 17. X is 0, 17. So let's take it to be there. So that's vertex 1. And we have 0, negative 17. Let's take it to be there. So that's vertex 1. That's vertex 2. And the co-vertices are 15, 0. So x is 15. So that's 14, so let's say 15 is 0 is right there. So that's co-vertex. I'm going to mark COV, and let's mark co-vertex 1. And we got a negative 15, which is 14 right there. So that's COV2 right there. And we have the foci. The foci are on the major axis. So vertices are on the major, foci are on the major. So 0, 8 right there. And so this is foci 1. And 0, negative 8 is foci 2. And so what happens is that you draw cutting through your intercepts. So here we go. So we have 17 and 15 very close. It looks almost getting, so take your time. There we are. And so that's the ellipse that represents this equation. Again, repeat, the larger number that's on the bottom and is equal to 1. The larger number is the major axis, and the foci lie on the major axis. And the eccentricity is c over a if it's horizontal, and c over b if it's c over b if the vertical axis is the major. And pf1 plus pf2 is 2a if it's horizontal is the major, and 2b if the vertical is the major. So just be careful. Just be careful of what you do. Now I did the 0, 0 center first because it's least confusing. And most times when I have an equation, I draw a little sketch to make sure that I get all this information that I have here right. And I pick out I draw to plot the center. I plot which is the a squared, b squared, and I say which is the major, and I plot these. I'll show you in a minute in more videos how I handle it. And again, if you like my video, click the like button, Click the subscribe button if you want to subscribe to my channel. Visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. That's the content that I have on my YouTube channel called Math Fully Explained. Notice one word. Thank you for viewing my video. Hope the video was of some help to you. Bye-bye.